it on the cloud.
Okay. All righty. So I also want to thank you for taking the time to fill out my survey. Being new to GitLab in this project is really important for me to kind of get a good sense of what the content team is working on and the struggles for each section. And obviously there's a recognition for a need for a CMS. And we decided to go with the topic pages as a first content release because it's just a leaner approach since the blog is so much bigger. That being said, from reviewing all of your thoughtful answers on the survey, we also realized that these pages are entry points and get a lot of traffic. So best to not treat them like a blog page layout. So that's kind of the overview of what we heard. You can feel free to take a look at the survey report on your own time and share that also with Bree. So what I want to talk about with you today is we've kind of narrowed down a content block wish list. And what I mean by content block, I just mean, some people call them modules, some people call them components, but just kind of little design layouts that you can add to elevate your content without having to ask a designer or engineer or anyone like that to build that for you. Obviously, we want to keep this CMS integration lean, so we're not going to deliver a ton of stuff. So how the process will look, it'll be kind of like a first release. It's just going to be a standard blog-like layout with just the title, a standard WYSIWYG where you can put videos and images and standard type styles and all of that. And then as that is being tested and pressure tested, we're going to start releasing some of these extra components in sprints. Okay, so that's kind of like the Cole's notes. So I'll just open up this doc and share my screen. There we go. So this is just the bottom half of the survey report where we just listed some of the must-have components based on some of your answers. And then we separated by must-have, and this to be determined is just because we know you're working on testing for surveys and quizzes. So we're just gonna kind of keep that on the side for now. So we have imageless header options, which is kind of taking cues from the issues that you're having with the blog. So we kind of dug into that issue and are integrated into the topics page. Images and photos and GIFs and diagrams and all of that, that's a given. Videos, lists, so for events, issues, you use often that kind of icon, title, description layout for lists and stuff like that. So we understood that that's pretty important. Content cards, CTA blocks, call outs, which are kind of more like block quotes, but we separated them because we understood from your answers that you wanted those to have a little bit more emphasis. 2-column layouts and a sidebar navigation, which probably should have been the first thing on this list, but this isn't in order of priority. Does that feel kind of right for a must-have list?
Yeah, I'm impressed that we got so many in the must-have list.
Well, they're going to come, as I said, in iterations.
Yeah.
Great. So let's take a look at some of those in action then. So this, you have a link to this Figma file. On the sidebar here, it's separated by big picture and lean. So today we're going to focus on the lean stuff. You can take a look at the big picture stuff. That's still kind of being reviewed by engineering. That's kind of more of the UX content work, wish list, things that the way we think that content should be presented, but then there's also reality. What can we give you now? So a couple things here. I'm gonna show you just these header options. So one thing that we kind of, that was flagged was the need for what has been called a sidebar for navigations, for related links, for cluster articles. Thinking about that, we thought that it could be interesting to put that in fact, in the header area to bring more emphasis to it. Often the way sidebars are used are just, for the types of pages where you're looking for additional information, like, a company privacy policy, for example. You would go there and then you would use the sidebar nav to navigate those items. So I think in order to give it a little bit more emphasis, it would be interesting to just move it up into the header area. And then as a default, you would have another header area in a separate template for articles that aren't related to any cluster linking. So that is kind of the first biggest change that we're proposing, as well as the removal of the image. There's a lot of rationale up here. We don't have to go through it item by item, but if you do want to go over this with your team, all of that information is there, the whys. Moving on to this section. So we're calling this embedded blocks. So for this first iteration, again, to keep it lean, we're not going to kind of create like a Squarespace type designer where you can, have like a modular access to move things around a page. But what we'll start with is giving you kind of a couple embedded blocks that you can turn on or turn off if you need them. So as you create sections, by default, there'll be these 3 blocks. And then if you don't need them, you just turn them off. So what we've narrowed down for those blocks for this first round would be this list for benefits or for, whatever. I've seen them used so many times. And don't forget, these are wireframes. These are going to be skinned later. So they're not necessarily going to look like this.
Okay, so for something like the benefits module or block that you're calling it, if we turn that on, I would assume, be able to change all that copy. Will we be able to change the icons as well?
Yeah, so okay. There'll definitely be a field for title, a field for the description, and then a field for an image. Whether that's going to be pulled from a library or not, I'm still unsure about that part, but there'll definitely be an opportunity to upload an image. So there's a small chance you might still have to go through a designer if you need something to be turned into an SVG or cropped if it doesn't connect to a library. But the details of that is still to be determined. But yeah, you'll have all those fields. There's no coding.
Awesome. And then will we be limited to 3 in a list, or is that customizable as well?
I believe you'll be able to add more because I've noticed there's more than 3 in a lot of the usage of this.
Awesome.
This is something new that doesn't exist just because you're using cross-linking so heavily on these pages, and it's not, you can see these cards below, it's not always going to a blog. Sometimes you want to mix and match related articles. Sometimes things are on the solutions pages, on the customer pages. So we thought it'd be interesting to have a kind of fixed layout at the bottom where you can have a list of just resources, and these would be all links that go to various places, videos, case studies. We can talk to Vic about creating some icons for each one of those categories. And also just breaking out of this layout also, I think, kind of separates the way that content is being communicated, that these are kind of, I'm done with this article, I want to keep digging, I want to keep reading more interesting articles, and these are actual resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I like it a lot visually, because I think some of our pages right now, I haven't looked at them in a while, but I'm sure there's like ×9 cards just floating around at the bottom or something like that. So this looks really nice.
Yeah, and I find that when those cards are being overused, like people will just suffer from card blindness. Similarly to the side nav, you kind of get rail blindness and don't look at the stuff in that side. So mm-hmm. we want to avoid that. And that brings us to these cards. These are self-explanatory. One thing that we're working on is it would be neat if you could mix and match these easily and that they're consistent. So that's still something that's kind of a work in progress. And how can we have a case study look like a blog card, like if you just don't necessarily want these to all be from the same source. So that's kind of a work in progress for now, but that's the idea for this component. That would be the update.
Got it.
We also had a lot of conversations about removing the bylines. when blogs are presented here, just because it's inconsistent when they're mixed in with other types of articles. And bylines also, especially when there's a date, can date things. And sometimes an article that was written last year can still be relevant to this page, and you don't want something that says like 2018 on it. So we're open, obviously, to not doing that. It's just something that we thought looked a little bit cleaner as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I could see us using this section more for, like what you said, case studies and potentially related articles outside of the main topic as a way to get people reading further into other things that we do. So I'm trying to think of, like, if somebody's coming in. So let me take a step back. We're moving a lot of content off of our blog into these articles for that exact reason. And so we're trying to make our blog more of a timely resource where it's talking more about trends and things happening now, and anything evergreen we're moving into these content clusters. So that's how I would see us using this, whereas the resources section above, actually what you pointed out, need DevOps buy-in, here's how to convince stakeholders. I see this section as like, what are the top 3 things we want them to engage in? A blog like that, it would be the blog we want them to read because it's part of the buyer's journey, versus just at this using these cards to say, here's 3 related blog posts. It's a lot more like strategic visibility of content. So that's how I see us using these. So the byline and dates and all of that stuff not being there is definitely no problem.
Great. Also, I know that the topics pages specifically are not necessarily about selling GitLab. It's not necessarily part of this user's journey, but I see it in many of the pages. So, you know, a kind of call to action could be nice to have available when you do need it. And it doesn't have to be sign up for GitLab. It can be like download an ebook or something else.
Got it. Yeah, I could see us using this also to point to our solutions pages, which is like the consideration version of this, where we actually start to explain how GitLab solves whatever thing the topic is talking about. So that's great. So that would be customizable. It wouldn't just be pulling in the try GitLab. Okay.
Yeah. Again, it would maybe just default to this, or anything, you know, you can, you know, your team can decide would be the most commonly used things. You don't always have to enter it every time. And then you would edit the field, edit this field, and then change the button URL and the copy that's in it. Okay. So these are editor items. So these are just things that are just standard, usually like available in a WYSIWYG or any type of editor. So full width image, 1 column, like inline image, video, pull quote and block quote, and then just your standard typography styling. So lists, bullets, all of that, links.
Right. That makes sense.
And then moving to this side. So this is just what we've talked about, just, you know, in real use. So this is an article using some of the components we just discussed. So this is how it could look with the title, description, and then the links on the side here. Optional image right underneath. I know that there's some conversations about the blog that if there is no image, we're going to have to find a way to display some default images. I'll have to follow up with where that project is at.
I think that conversation is mostly around sharing on social, because they need an image for social.
Okay.
We don't need an image to publish to the blog. So I don't think that's a concern here. We might do paid advertising around these pages to help get the traffic up, but I don't see us sharing these pages much on social. So I don't think that would be a huge issue.
So what about then these cards though? Because if you're going to be sharing them inside the GitLab universe,
right,
they'll still need an image.
So when we create those cards, do we add an image manually, or is it like you would put in a link and it would pull in all the information?
That's a good question. Normally it would just pull the default image, but obviously it's going to have to be built in a way that you're going to have to upload an image, which kind of defeats the purpose of this being, you know, a lean process for your team, because you'll still have to source an image. So that's definitely something we have to think about with the cards specifically. I did like toy around with the idea of having cards without images, but yeah, it just draws a lot less visual attention, especially when it's at the bottom of the page like that and somebody's just finished like a long body of text.
Right.
Introduce images again.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I like what I'm seeing here with the image right there, and that's kind of how our blog is going.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm thinking about with the whole images is like right now, for example, our blog, everything we're using is from Unsplash. So it's super generic. This is something I'd have to talk to Luke and Vic about. It'd be nice with these pages and those bottom cards to have something a little bit more branded and interesting to get people to click on. In the meantime, we do have a default image that we can always just plug in. Now, it would probably look horrible if we had 3 default images in a row, but that's probably something we could figure out maybe when we get there.
Okay. Yeah, it's true. It is early in the process. So I think that it's just good to know that for the build, we'll probably have to just have an option to upload an image for all those pages that might not have images. Because I know also some of these cluster child articles don't have images at all.
Right.
So yeah, standard body, I've narrowed the columns quite a bit, just to give it like a more of an editorial feel. It's easier on the eyes, it's easier for scanning. This is how resources could look at the bottom, your related reads, and then the CTA. So how the templates will work for this first iteration is that your templates will come with all of this stuff. And if you don't want this, you have to uncheck it. You don't want this, you uncheck it. You don't want this, you uncheck it. But you can't really, unfortunately, for now, move anything up the page. So if you, for some reason, want related links in the middle of the page, that's going to be a merge request with the developer, not through the CMS.
Yeah. I mean, this looks really nice. I like it does have an editorial feel. The related articles at the top feels very much like a magazine in a way, or like a digital magazine with the image below it. So I think it looks really nice. Yeah.
Great. There's just a couple more things to go over. Just this is just how it would look standalone with no image. Or sorry, not no images, no related links. The use of these. So just kind of the same idea. Just to give a feel of the header, that the headers can still look nice without the related links. This is just a pressure test to show we are in the middle of discussing how we want to deal with the survey pages, if those are going to be a separate template or if you're going to be able to load the survey inside. So since they're not, those questions aren't being answered, this is just, you know, what we're working with as a template. We figure that whenever, and you would know better than me, whenever you do want to launch a quiz or a survey, you probably won't have tons of other content on that page.
Yeah, this is a good, so the quiz or survey, the most likely destination for these would be on a topics page. Yeah. And the topics page content itself is shorter than like a web article because it's just the topic, and then you go to the other web articles to dig deeper. So there might be more text around it. So I don't know if you can just add it as a block. Okay. Because the idea behind, the whole idea behind the quiz is to see if we can get people into a funnel of like, you landed on this topics page, but do you belong here? Can we point you somewhere? And just to get them to where they need to go quicker.
Okay, that makes sense. Video. So using a similar layout for whenever you want to just show videos, maybe you want to have a whole funnel to watch more webcasts. This this could be how that could look. And one thing I noticed is that's missing from here, I'm just going to go into the big picture section for a second, is that you do have the opportunity to put links and buttons in there.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So they would be underneath these. I'll add them to one of these to give an example. I just thought, like, for some of these cluster articles, when there's also a link to go to download an ebook, and then there's related links, there's just a lot. You're asking the user to go in a lot of directions in just like the first 3 seconds. So, but that's.
Yeah, I mean, the intent with these pages really are to get people to consume the cluster. And then if, they download an ebook or something like that, we're still kind of working through the funnel piece of it. But this is super, I mean, the entry for this is organic search. So this is us saying hi for the first time. So I really like that thought process of not overwhelming people and keeping them focused. Because ultimately we want to rank really high for these pages, and that's going to be a combination of traffic and like time on page. Like, how good is this content actually?
Yeah.
So that's great.
Okay, great. So that's everything that I wanted to review for this meeting. We'll probably meet again in 2-3 weeks when there's more things to go over. I know that Lauren's getting close to installing the admin, so we're soon going to be able to play around in there for reals. So that's very exciting.
That's exciting.
And feel free to leave comments in the Figma file using the commenting tool. I'm not sure. I'm sure you guys all use.
Yeah, I think I definitely I'm able to use it.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the team, because what I'll do is I'll share this video and this agenda too with Bree and the rest of the content marketing team, because they're the ones actually writing the articles. For me, like, this looks great. For us, the number one thing was like, can we get these live and looking good on our own?
Yeah.
And this checks all of those boxes. It gives them some good customization. So I'll share all this with them too, to leave any comments in case there's something I missed. But to me, this is seems like a good start. We have a lot of topic pages and web articles to even get in there. And then my vision is probably, like 6 months, we come back and like, is there something that we've run into now that we can't do?
Yeah.
That we want to do. And that's probably going to be more around getting people into funnels and like getting more advanced at that. But again, that's like 6 months to a year out, probably. We need to get these pages up and people on them.
Yeah. And also stimulate the production, so it's not so difficult to create them and publish them.
Yeah. So this looks great to me.
Great. I'll stop share. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for walking me through this. It's so exciting to like have a whole team of people working on all of this stuff. Like, you have no idea.
Yeah. Yay.
Cool.
Okay, so I'll let you finish up your day.
All right, thanks. And it was nice to talk with you.
Nice to talk to you too. Bye.
Okay, bye.